my name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be different. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be different. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be different. You are going to be out. You are going to be bigger and larger than ever. Imagine the possible. And you know why? Because just you and I would find the power that's just born inside of you all of this time. And all of this time, you were afraid to go out and no longer look at me. The things you will be sharp. You will be the God or goddess of and you will be the one that every time person you said that you look there, the master there, the teacher there, there's the one that will make my life different. And would like to do that? Remember to try to tell you. I'm here to tell you. I'm here to change your life. You're not going to love you. Jesus and me together. I'm going to offer you. Before you know everything you imagine is possible. Because possible for one simple reason. Anything is possible. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be dead. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be dead.
And welcome to yet another show, episode 5 of Father and Son Theater, called Fast. And you're listening to the voice of Dr. Mel Gill, and you are also listening to my co-host, Luc Gill, who is he's broadcasting from Bulgaria, and I'm doing it from Singapore. Both of us in partial, semi-lockdown situation, because the situation so far in Varna, Bulgaria, on the Black Sea is not so bad. Everybody has this sense of nothing is happening over there. The virus is not affecting people on the coast, or people are immune from drinking a lot of rakia. I'm not sure what it is, but so far it looks like nothing is happening, and I don't see anybody in all the pictures of all our friends wearing a mask. Luke?
Yeah. Life is continuing on as normal. Whether that's because of people's strong immune systems or the lack of small businesses to crush here, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, let's welcome some people into the studio. Our good friend Lawrence. And Lawrence, you're going to be in this show today. We were going to talk about a few things. Lawrence is got some wonderful answers for us the last time. All you got to do, Lawrence, is click on that link and you will be in the, how do you say rear of the studio? Backstage. You will be backstage. You will be backstage, and then I'll pull you to the front and we can be broadcasting. Today's general topic is to wrap up what we started on Wednesday. And what did we start, Luke? Suffering,
pain, suffering,
betrayal, and getting over hurt and things like that. We had some kind of a system, but let's also welcome Atsuko Kagata and Alberto Pizzo. Remember Alberto? You met him in Rome. Was it in Rome?
Of course.
Yeah. And you guys never talked about having an online presence for him. He should. I think he'll be a superstar if he goes online and starts to sell his music online and all of that. Once the world discovers him. Right now, people know him in Japan and Italy, but I think he should be worldwide. Maestro. He's got a son. Can you imagine? I knew him. Ciao. Are you in Japan now, Alberto, or are you in back in Italy? Just let us know. It'll be good to have you on board as well. And say Lawrence is now. Let me add him on. Hey, Lawrence. Welcome to the show. We have sound, I think, but we don't have video.
I don't know what's happening with the video part. I just reconfigured my computer recently. I hope I didn't eliminate something that.
Oh no!
No.
What you can do is do a video test as you come on board here, and while you do the video test, I will put you backstage. How about that? And then do the video test.
I'm not sure how to do a video test.
Oh, it will say when you go to the. Are you a Mac or a PC?
I am
person?
a PC.
Oh, or you're screwed. You know, PC stands for piece of crap. You know that, right?
Well, I appreciate your input, but we don't always agree with the person we're conversing with.
It's true. It's true. It's true. I sound like my son. Okay, Alberto is in Tokyo next week. He's going to Germany and Italy. Good. And Lucia Zornik from Brazil is also on the line with us. So, Lawrence, for now, we're going to leave you as the man in the dark.
Okay.
Let me see what I can do. There's nothing I can do here to bring you out.
See, it's saying everyone can see and hear you, but there's something not right at my end, I guess, as far as video.
Did you have your camera blocked with a piece of paper like I normally do? No,
I'm not that paranoid yet.
You know, even Mark Zuckerberg is seen with a little bit of tape over his camera. He just keeps it to make sure he knows something we don't know yet about the thing. But for now, let's keep you as the man in the shadows.
That's my new name.
That's your new name. And I want to acknowledge the fact for the last few weeks that I've run this program, a couple of months, maybe more.
Oh yes.
And your comments were instrumental in helping people think through some of the things I've been talking about. I appreciate that. And
I appreciate being on. The lockdown gave me the opportunity to be here. Normally I would work 4 days a week and not do your show. So because I was confined to my apartment, I started, linking on at 9:30 every morning, looking forward to it. I got a little thing to say. I know I'm in the darkness here, but I still want to say one more thing before I go.
Oh, don't go.
I mean, back to the darkness is what I mean.
I see. Okay.
I researched some of your stuff and read your story. I have the Meta Secret. I'm on the second reading of that.
Thank you.
I've had this stuff for years, like the Meta Secret movie, because
right.
I'm into all your contemporaries, like Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
I met him, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I've heard him in person.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've bombarded my brain with all this magical stuff. That's why I'm able to input some good stuff into the comments. Now, the one thing I wanted to say before I go, because once I start, it's hard to stop me.
Okay.
The little caricature of you. Do you remember with the hat and the googly eyes? And it says, "Are you okay?"
Oh, yes.
Okay. What I did, I printed it off.
Yeah.
One's in color, one's in black and white.
Yeah.
I have the black and white one framed in my bedroom, and the other one's on my desk right here as I sit here. It says, "Are you okay?" So when I get up in the morning, I use an affirmation. Well, I read from Dr. Murphy's book first before I get out of bed.
Right.
Then I go, "I greet this day with love in my heart from Og Mandino." But when I'm up and walking around my bed, there is Mel Gill's caricature, and it says, "Are you okay?" And I go, "I'm great."
Wonderful. Do me a favor. I there've been so many caricatures that I posted. I think could you post that on the Facebook or whichever way, just for fun?
It's one day with a top, like a little hat on, googly eyes, like it looks like a beard, dark shirt and jacket. And it says, "Are you okay?" So see, I'm being, I'm conversing with you each day. Are you okay? So when I say I'm great, that's the choice we have.
I see.
When you're happy, people go, what's wrong? Well, I mean, what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the conditioning, like from
it's the conditioning, yes.
Desirada, I guess it's called. I got to read. I printed that out and I started reading that because I used to have a big poster of it.
Right.
And a storm came and actually the water came into my apartment, the wind and water, and tore it off my wall. So when you were repeating that one day, I thought that sounds very familiar to me.
Wow.
So back on.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that sometimes a lot of people go through life with no one beside them who look after them, who ever asks them the question, "Are you okay?" Could you use a boost? Could you? It's so funny to imagine that all people need is a little bit of encouragement. That's all they need is a little bit of encouragement, and it would take them over the next hump and the next issue and the problem, and it push them further. And there's a lot of people don't have that, and so I'm talking with Luc, and I know we're very slow about it and very quiet about it, but we're producing programs that people can listen to eventually without having to go live like this. This is just letting Luc cut his teeth so that when I do die, he can take over all of this. And he has all the answers. And I mean, his caricature would probably look a lot better than mine anyway. Less googly-eyed. you know what I mean? But the question, are you okay? And if you can ask that of everybody you meet, instead of how are you? You know, when people say how are you, they don't really mean it. It's just like a form of greeting.
Yes.
You know, it's like the American Indians as they pass by each other. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
But not a little bit different. So here, are you okay?
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
Well, it makes us realize that we have conscious choice of our thoughts. That's what I like about it. Because most people are, you know, they're worried about something, but I've programmed my brain so much over the years. I've taken Transcendental, I've done Dale Carnegie, you know, so many different things.
Wow.
That my brain is actually, you know, the cassette that we were born with that was blank.
Yes.
I filled it up quite well with very positive, like a moment ago, I just read one of the affirmation pages, you know, the positive affirmations. So I do that every morning. I have a ritual. I have so many books that I read, you know, the affirmations. So I'm programming my subconscious on a daily basis. I've done it so often that they pop out of my subconscious. So that way I don't have a chance to worry about what's on CNN because I don't even have cable.
Right.
You know, I don't watch it, and people are saying, or like my mother's 90 years old. So I'm talking to my mother and she goes, oh, was it someone got shot near Ottawa? And I go, yeah, in Carleton Place, you know. She fell down the other day and had to be taken to the hospital.
Oh dear, is she okay?
Yeah, she's okay. She's 90 years old. She decided to go to her neighbors and water the plants without his permission, without his request to do it. You know, because she's this lady from New Brunswick that, you know, wants to help her neighbor that doesn't need help. He's 30 years old.
Right.
Anyway, she fell backwards with 2 pails of water. My sister had to take her to the hospital. And they did X-rays and nothing broken. She's
nothing broken. Wow,
nothing broken. Sore wrist.
Yeah.
Now she can't do her crafts. She does Afghans and crochets, and she's this woman that never stops. She's like the Energizer Bunny. And so anyway, I said, lesson learned. You don't go to your neighbors. You don't trespass. You don't offer help that he didn't ask for.
And knowing her, the lesson was not that. The lesson was carry only one bucket at a time.
Probably. Now, the point I'm getting to, you know how you have those emergency response messages on your phone? I don't know if you guys get that.
Yes.
Or you are.
Yes.
So anyway, while I'm talking to my mother the next day and to ask how she is, she says, oh, what was that? And I said, well, that's when I talked about the murder, actually. I said, there's a emergency response on a cell phone. She has a landline, so she doesn't get those. And I'm more interested in finding out how she is, and she's concerned about this emergency response. You know, like she's so curious. She has to know, and I want to know how she is, you know.
Right. Anyway. Well, it sounds like she's looking forward all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Let me welcome a few people into studio. Elizabeth, welcome to studio. Your grandmother, Luc, is watching. Mamji, welcome to studio. And Lawrence joins us out of the dark, and he's from Ontario, Canada. And Lawrence has been a contributor to the program quite a bit, actually. I've appreciated a lot of his remarks and conclusions and summarizing a lot of what I've said. And I really wanted to hear more about Lawrence's life. Lawrence, before we go into what you do and how you do it and what your philosophy is, I wanted you to tell me a little bit more, because the last time we were on Wednesday, we were talking about suffering, pain, betrayal, Kurt.
Yeah.
And you contributed quite a bit to that discussion. That's why I wanted you on today to go on a little bit more and have a platform to talk more about that. Would you like to?
Yes, that's why I appeared today. Out of the darkness, I appeared.
And he's like Darth Vader. Luke, I am not your father.
I could relate to the topic because, you mentioned distance yourself. That's why I inputted that part about the town was too small for both of us. It was small town New Brunswick. I didn't want to see her walking around with her new man. How's that going to, daggers sticking into me, so
sure.
I decided to leave. But the really difficult part was leaving my children behind.
Mm-hmm.
One of the saddest moments was when my youngest son was walking into the house before, as I was ready to leave, and he was crying. So I had that image of my 10-year-old, I think he was at the time, my youngest son, crying, because his dad is leaving. And when's he ever going to see him again? So that was part of, what I was discussing on Friday. No, Wednesday. Sorry,
Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to get out of that little town, and I came back to Ontario, where I actually grew up outside of Toronto. But my cousin had moved to Ottawa with his wife and family, so that's how I ended up in Ottawa. So I've been here for 32 years, and I used to play in bands. So I ended up meeting someone that was putting a band together with the manager of the oldest tavern in Ottawa. So I just went in to play in the band. I didn't decide I want to work in a bar or tavern. One thing led to another. 32 years later, well, except for the COVID kicking me out the door, I was there for 32 years. I've been there for 32 years.
Your story and mine are not that far different.
Wow.
I mean, Luke was barely 6, 7, I think, at that time, and he was the most emotionally, you should see the look on his eyes. I mean, I was in tears all the way when I had left, because when I came back to visit, I mean, here was the gardener in my sleeping on my couch, and
I know
my
the
bed,
gardener.
And the last thing I said to him was, well, enjoy my house, enjoy my stuff, enjoy my wife, and all of that. And but I'm thankful that he turned out to be a nice guy. I mean, he's not a bad guy; he's a nice guy. But I couldn't stand to see that every day.
No. This is why I left the town that I was in.
That's why I moved lock, stock, and barrel to Chicago.
Wow.
And from New York, and I've been there 12 years, I think, and then 3 more in Vermont. Right. So it's like crazy thing to do, and the only thing I missed was my kids. I mean, I mean, I was ready to move on from her anyway. Yeah. So, but you know what?
What I said on Wednesday, that how I said to not badmouth the mother of my children. Why I said that, it's so important because. I'm sure, and I've never done it, but I'm sure there's people that are bad-mouthing their mother to their children. You know what I'm saying? That the children have a bond with their mother and their father. Yes. So I always wanted to, if they mentioned their mother, I said, oh, great, like always have that good communion with your children without having that tension that you might have had with your
I think I made a few mistakes there.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. That's why I inputted that on Wednesday. That's the way I've lived, my life, and it's worked out well. Now,
good.
I know there's a guru that you may not care for that much. His name is Tony Robbins. I'm not sure if you were one of one of the hoo-ha guys.
Don't get me wrong. I think he's brilliant at what he does, and I think there's millions of people that are being helped.
Yes.
And I'm not against any guru. Please get
no. But sometimes you say that the hoo-ha gurus, like I'm very good at listening and retaining what I hear. Okay. So the point I wanted to make though is about Tony. He had this documentary. It was called "I'm Not Your Guru." It was about a 2 or 3 hour documentary on Netflix. So I actually watched that. And after I watched it, something compelled me to send a message to my ex-wife through Messenger on Facebook. We're not friends on Facebook, but you're allowed to, you're able to send a message. And all I said to her was, "Thank you for being the mother of our children." And she responded, "I guess we did something right." But something lifted from me. It was like a weight lifted because I sent her that message.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
so that's the only thing I wanted to say about Tony.
Yeah. No. Look, everyone, including your pet, can be a teacher. You know what I mean? Even the people who hurt you can be teachers.
Yes.
And the ones who are, whether they're in your life or not in your life, they're doing their job out there. Like the Wolf of Wall Street. What's his name?
Jordan Belfort.
Jordan Belfort, there you go. And even he, inspires a lot of people. Yeah. And the other one who doesn't think much of Belfort, what's that guy with the...
They had a squawk. They had a...
Yeah. 10x your life.
Grant Cardone, yeah.
Grant has said terrible things about the guy. He said, he's a nothing but a two-bit loser and that.
Well, why he said it, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the fact is I watched the interview with Grant Cardone because I watched a lot of YouTube videos during the lockdown, right? That was part of my daily routine, go on YouTube. And what happened was he interviewed Grant and he was just asking him simple sales questions. And Grant couldn't really answer them to his liking. So at the end, he had another guy on another day and he goes, "That guy doesn't know anything about sales." So I think that's what started this animosity. Right. He publicly on, the internet tore the guy to shreds. So now it created this war between them.
I saw a part of that interview and all I saw was a lot of testosterone in the room. And people jockeying for, position and so on and so forth. But regardless, what I'm saying is that all of these guys have something brilliant to teach you. The problem with humanity is that we think when we find the one guru that he will have or she will have all the answers. Yeah. Wait, what's the female equivalent of guru?
Gurus.
Gurus?
I don't know. I made that up as I went along.
Wow, I don't know, but it sounds almost always male. But let's assume that it's a neutral term, and all these gurus can teach you a part of the quote unquote truth, and anytime you're ready, in any stage of your life, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them will, in combination, bring to you exactly what you need to be able to do what you need to do. Yes. And you will make that breakthrough. And I have found that most people find their gurus, especially Luc. I mean, Luc, remember you are in different stages of your life and dramatically different stages of your life. And the things you needed to learn came to you, not from some of the famous gurus. Sometimes it could be like a woman on the ground, I meant like somebody who's living a practical life. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily a guru per se. And they all had messages for you. Yeah. True or not true?
Yeah. I think these messages are out there for us if we're open to look for them, and can be in anything we read, anything we hear. Yeah. And you got to pick your truth with everything.
We pick out. If we picked out truth as easily as you pick out nose, I think there'll be a different story. But yeah, Elizabeth says groovy. Have you ever heard that term?
Never.
I've never heard that term. It's groovy to be a groovy.
Could be true.
Could be true. Never know. Never know. I learned something today. So tell us, Lawrence. You're a musician? You said?
Well, I started as a child, and I don't know if you're familiar with Hawaiian guitar. It's a steel guitar that you play Hawaiian music. Now,
you're not talking ukulele.
No, it's a
Wheelbase.
slide
No.
guitar. Like you use a steel and you slide. So
Yeah.
you've seen these country acts maybe where the guy's playing a pedal steel guitar.
Yeah.
Well, mine wasn't a pedal steel. It was just a 6-string steel guitar, the same idea.
Right.
Now, this is around the time of, pre-Beatles, right?
Right.
So I didn't know anything about guitars. I just knew that, intrinsically, I wanted to be a musician at a young age. So what happened was the Canadian Academy of Music came to the town of Milton, which is outside of Toronto.
Right.
And all the Italian kids took up accordion, and the non-Italian kids took up guitar, steel guitar.
Wow. How cool is that?
It was cool. And then when the Beatles arrived on the scene, I don't know how, I became the spokesperson for our class. There was about 6 people in the class. So our teacher came out after the other class had finished, and he said, "Come on in, guys." And I looked at him and I said, "No, we're not coming in. We want Beatle music." So we were boycotting our lesson, and he did come up with some Beatle music for us.
How very cool.
Instead of Blue Hawaii, and I used to play in concerts like in high schools, and I would always be the solo person from the class. Like we'd play a tune as a class, and then of course I think I practiced more than the other guys, and I had it quite perfected, so I was always chosen to do a solo tune. So anyway, of course, then I wanted to be in, get into the rock and roll music field. So my dad took me down to Toronto and bought me a regular guitar, like a 6-string guitar. And so then I started playing rhythm guitar, and then got into a basement band at about 16. And the bass player, who was, my friend, he looked at me one night. He said, "Do you want to play bass?" "I really don't want to play bass. Do you want to play bass?" I go, "Sure, why not?" I became a bass player from that point on.
Yeah.
So I played in bands over the years, Windsor, Ontario, New Brunswick, every weekend usually. And then when I got to Ottawa, of course, I met a musician that led me into the bar to play in a band with the manager.
How very cool.
So that's my path to serving in the bar.
So you're very young still then?
I was born 8 years before you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Still young. Yes.
Yeah. I'm 70 years old.
Wow. 7 years old.
Yeah,
now, I'm so glad you said you played solo most of the time. You know what I'm going to ask you, right?
Yeah.
I would love to know what a steel guitar sounds like.
Well, you'd have to just check out any country video. There'll be a steel guitar player in the video.
Great.
It's a slide steel, and he slides the steel along the guitar to make the music. Now, theirs are more elaborate because they use pedals. I never got into that because I graduated into, regular rock and roll guitar before I ever got a chance to.
Could you play something for us?
I don't have a steel guitar anymore. No, that was like in my youth.
But could you play something for us now?
Well, I have a blues guitar, or a guitar sitting over in the corner.
It's been a while. I would love to hear something. Yeah. I
always played in bands as a bass player.
Oh, okay.
Then I got to a point where, I didn't want to be out there anymore in the nightlife,
Right.
I got away from, like I just quit the band. Well, I had a girlfriend at the time, and,
Right.
So anyway, another story. We're talking about relationships. But anyway,
yes,
it wasn't conducive to the relationship that I'd be playing out in the band. So
I see.
Okay. I don't know if I'm using that as an excuse, but at that point in time, I decided to quit playing. So I sold all my bass equipment. I had the Fender bass, I had the Fender amp, and sold all that gear. And it was part of my life that I really enjoyed. And now I don't do nightlife. I do I do stay up. Oh, by the way, thank you for the suggestion for the old guard.
Yes. Wasn't that a great show, wasn't it?
Well, you had me sold that day when you mentioned Charlize Theron. As soon as you said her name, I went, okay, I'm into that one. Because she is such a beauty.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
The show was amazing. But the thing is, I usually get to bed by about midnight, I watch a bit of, Crave or Netflix, whatever at night. I don't do it during the day.
Sure.
During the day, I'm reading, I'm watching YouTube, interviews and stuff.
Yes.
So anyway, I actually stayed up till 1:30 in the morning watching that movie.
That was so amazing.
It was amazing. And it's just my kind of movie. I love action.
Yes.
I love the theme, the premise of it that they got up. Like, because at first it shocked me when they were all shot, right? And I go, shit, what did I have here?
Dead. Yes, exactly. How much better can it get after everybody's dead?
God, that was so good. No, I really enjoyed it.
And as an actress, she's amazing and well toned and plays the part so believably. As a human being, I'm so glad she's involved now and found a relationship that she's happy with the fellow who created the Family Guy. What's his name?
I'm not sure. I've never watched the Family Guy, but
do you know, Luke?
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane. Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
What an amazing and productive fellow he is as well. He created the Star Trek parody called Orville.
Okay.
The Adventures of Orville, and believe it or not, I've seen everything there, because from a parody and a comedy, it turned out to be something very serious. And I thought, wow, who else could pull it off so well except him?
Right.
Such an intelligent man, such an intelligent woman. I mean, there's a lot that they have to share as well. But tell me something. With this thing about relationships, and we start off with Charlize Theron and being cycling through relationships and kind of being fed up of that because of the pain and what the expectations are of somebody like her. And I'm sure people are drawn to her from looks first before anything else.
Very attractive.
And here was a director, producer, writer who had her in his films, and they became friends and they started to chat and they found something a little bit more. So when you get into a relationship with someone, first of all, are you in a relationship with someone?
I am in a relationship with my books.
Okay, so that's a no.
I just read.
Yeah. All right.
And I feel very comfortable each day. Now, being in the bar, I'll backtrack to working every day as a solo performer, we'll say, because I didn't work with anybody. I was in charge of the bar. So anyone that come in, I greeted them. So I would spend 7 hours of my day interacting with people.
Right.
And, some of them have become friends, or some of them, they're friends on Facebook. I post every day on Facebook and Instagram a positive message.
Oh, good for you. I should add you as a friend on Facebook.
No, we're friends on Facebook. We were friends on Facebook a long time ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Because I remember wishing you a happy birthday one time a few years back. So we've had this connection. I've got your, the Wealth Accelerator, which I play constantly. I mentioned to you.
Wow, those programs are and you know what? I am putting together still, because it has to come from a different place, like a storage facility for all my tapes and all that. And I have not been there because of COVID, but now next week we go into second phase and third phase in Singapore. So I will go there. I will get it out, and I'll send it to you, like I said I was going to.
Yes, I knew you had said that to me. Yeah. And here's the way I look at life. Someone promises something, and it's what we talked about on Wednesday. Expectations can be painful, so let the person be who they are. They'll get to it. Now the other side of it comes out why you couldn't get there, right? So I'm not going to send you messages. Mel, did you get a chance to send those? Blah blah blah. So
I can't get to the locker. But
exactly. Now getting back to what I was saying. So greeting people, being my best self, all the stuff I programmed into me.
Yeah.
never, you know, when people come in, let's say people start complaining about the weather or the government or, you know, Mr. So-and-so from another country, whatever, I would automatically start a positive input to them, you know, like change the conversation, make them feel good. So I did that for for 30 years, we'll say. And you do that for 7 hours a day. So it's greeting people. It's being your best self. Now, I've done stuff like, you've heard of W. Clement Stone?
Yes, of course.
Okay, well, I worked for his company for about 3.5 years. So, you know, I'm going back to the 70s where, you know, I had the positive mental attitude, you know, Mr. Stone programming us. And so I've always used that over the years. So when people come in, it's always about being positive, being enthusiastic. And I was watching a video yesterday, a guy named Matt Fury. Maybe you know him, Luke. He's some kind of a sports trainer or whatever. So he's got a program on Nightingale Conan. So I clicked on it. I bought it quite a while ago, but I clicked on the video. And he was saying, if you walk into a restaurant, he was using this as an example. You walk in and it's a negative energy, you know. They don't greet you. They don't welcome you. They don't send you positive energy. So the lady said something to him and he says, oh, I have to use the washroom first. He doesn't want to stay, you know. So he goes to the washroom, but then he comes back with his cell phone. Oh, I got to take this important call, and he leaves because he said, I couldn't let that person serve me.
Right.
So the point I'm making is I always greeted people with enthusiasm, made them feel welcome, always used, like, developed a rapport. So you came in and, you know, say you and Ellie came in, Luke. Hi, folks. Are you from the area or are you visiting? Oh, we're visiting. Where from? Calgary, Alberta. Oh, my children live in Calgary. Which part of Calgary do you live in? Start that, develop a rapport with them.
And
make them feel like they came to the best place on the planet Earth.
Right. And then you find out that Luke dated your daughter and dumped her.
Well, these things happen in life. We got to take it all in stride. So anyway, so then the point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, as he said also, thank people when they leave.
Yeah.
And I always did that. Thanks for dropping in. See you again or whatever. You know, so it's always that human connection. So I did that for 7 hours a day for many, many years. And when I got home at night, it was just sit down in my leather chair. Like you mentioned, you have your chair and all your books beside you. That's what I got. So I just decompress. That's why I come up with the word the other day, decompress, because I've already been on stage for 7 hours, right? Already,
yes. And you have all the answers, and all the people that come into the bar sometimes, they just are loaded with problems and issues. Exactly. Nobody really comes there happy and says, hey, I'm so happy I'm going to have a drink. Exactly. No, it's they're drowning.
The smiley guy, like you can't see me now, but I'm like Luke, always smiling. And one time one of the customers, a real surly guy, says, how come you're smiling all the time? And I go, well, I have to. I'll get fired if I don't. That's what I said. So I always come up with answers, you know, that... you know, I have to keep it civil and, as you say, diplomatic, you know, when you're
right.
You don't want to get anybody upset.
But have you noticed, Lawrence, that sometimes when people go through a trial or a devastation of some kind, they spiral downward, sometimes never to return to their normal level of functioning, you know, where other people rebound. But still they end up more gracious, more virtuous, like you, for instance, and wiser for the experience.
Yes.
Now, there are also these people that we want to learn from. Like I said, you can learn from everybody and to be around. And it turns out that it's actually possible to maybe do better than to just greet them. We can actually help them cope with the suffering.
Yes.
And suffering can actually help people grow sometimes. You don't want to remove that suffering from people, you know. Sometimes leadership, a leader is born out of suffering, you know, and you have to engage some kind of specific process in the brain that facilitates growth because of the suffering. If it's too easy, there is no leadership. There is no growth. Agreed?
I agree. All our suffering, and we talked about it maybe last week. You know, Luke said everything that's happened, all the pain and suffering, that leads you to the point where you are now. To be a stronger, you know, happier person, better person than you were. If you wanted to go back and analyze maybe some of your habits that you got rid of, you know, so all that suffering is important. At the time when it's happening, it's devastating sometimes, right? But then the breakthrough, that barrier of pain and agony, it takes time. It's like, you know, to heal, like a breakup, let's say a marriage breakup with children like you had, Mel. That takes time. That doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Now, there are tools, like for me, it's been all the stuff that I've listened to, you know, transcendental meditation I took, or Dale Carnegie, or listened to Dr. Wayne Dyer, or even you know, your work, whatever.
I knew
on a constant basis, you know.
I knew Wayne when he had hair, believe it or not.
I've got some of the photos on my album covers that I bought his programs. I have one of his books signed, actually. It came from a library.
Right. Luke was 2 years old, but he won't remember meeting Wayne Dyer. You actually met him, Luke, in one of my programs. I was one of the speakers, and he was the guy who, of course, attracted everybody, and I was one of the supplemental speakers and all of that, and we became very fast friends. Because he was the only one in the front row, you know, where they put all the VIP speakers. He was laughing his head off. All the other speakers are going, shit, damn, I was going to use that joke.
You know, he was powerful to hear in person. For me, like, I was actually working that day. I used to work on the weekends. And it was a Sunday afternoon. There was a church called the Chalmers Church. And it's, you know, it's rounded. So the acoustics are fantastic. So Wayne was on stage, and I thought, I have to go and see Wayne Dyer because I've listened to his tapes and, you know, read his books. So when I went, I actually got my replacement to come in early. I didn't just take the whole day off. I worked part of the day, and it wasn't far from my work where I could just go over to the church. And what I found about Wayne, he was so powerful. Like when he spoke, without a microphone in that place, because of the acoustics.
Deep, resonant voice.
Resonant, and it was like so powerful. Every word he spoke had power. And that's what I remember about seeing Wayne Dyer. Now, I still listen to his stuff. When I'm preparing breakfast, I have an iPad, and I always have videos going on my iPad while I'm preparing breakfast. So I'm constantly feeding my brain, as I mentioned earlier. So I might listen to Wayne Dyer talking.
Right.
You know,
see, he and Deepak Chopra became fast friends as well. I listen to Wayne when I need somebody to reach in my soul where all these other hoo-has couldn't. And I listen to Deepak when I can't sleep. So I go to sleep straight away within 5 minutes.
One day you mentioned a former friend of yours, Stuart Wilde. I have over 1,000 books. Like, I've got a lot of bookshelves. You know, that's my addiction. You know, like I can't stop myself. And so anyway, what I did that day, when you mentioned
another thing we have in common,
I just went over to my bookshelf and dug out all of Stuart's books, and I read Infinite Self. I reread it because it's been years probably since I read it. Then I would listen to him narrate it on my iPad.
Right.
So, you know, when I'm cooking, preparing breakfast, making my coffee, listen to Stuart Wilde. So that's one of the books I read from each morning also.
Stuart was the guy who wrote a book, The Secret to Money is Having Some.
Yes, exactly. So I've got all his books. But the book that I read from Mel every day is The Secrets of Life. So I read 2 pages. So today I'm on page 130. I haven't done my reading yet because I'm being on the show. So I read that. Now, I've got your book, 99 Ways to Emotional Healing.
Oh, good.
Now, very ironic here. number 50, which is what I read on Wednesday. So I read one per day. I'm at number 52 today.
Okay.
Do the things you fear.
Mm-hmm.
So now you invited me to the program. So
right.
I had some apprehension, of course, because I'm not on camera right now, but that was the thing that I've never really gone on camera. I've dealt with a lot of people in person over my lifetime.
Right.
And I've done things that scared me, like going door to door with combined insurance for, W. Clement Stone's company. But
right.
just the fact that you asked me to come on the show, my inner voice said, I have to go on. But ironically, it was number 50. Do the things you fear.
You're
so
right.
People hold themselves back because, they're afraid to do it. So they don't do it. And then they kick themselves for not doing it. Right. And when I went online yesterday and I saw your post for On Common Sense Friday at 9:30, Dr. Mel Gill, co-hosts Luc Gill and Lawrence Buckley. Well, there's no turning back once that happens.
No turning back. Yeah.
Right. So, so that's what I'm saying. Our fears hold us back. Even when I started waitering, working in the bar, I mean, I'd never done that before. Serve people, because one time in New Brunswick, my cousin and I were in a tavern and I saw the waiter just flying around, serving everyone. I thought, how can he do that? I could never do that.
Right. You see, Luc is actually in the process of writing a book. He's actually mapping it out right now about fearlessness or living fearlessly.
Yeah, I wrote that in my journal when you mentioned it that day.
Yeah, and when he puts it together, he gets it out there. It's going to be amazing. But you have courage, and I really appreciate that, Lawrence.
Well, courage comes from living, through things that you've had to do in your lifetime. Like, one time I'm in New Brunswick, and I didn't mention this, but I had a carpet cleaning business.
Uh-huh.
Now, this was after the insurance sales. I worked in insurance sales for about five and a half years. And then I met a guy that we read the same books, like Think and Grow Rich. And so we had this kind of connection. So he had his own business in small town New Brunswick. And I thought to myself, that's what I'd like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of working for a corporate company. So anyway, we became friends. And when I was doing transcendental meditation, I come up with an idea to form another company and go to the rural areas in New Brunswick, which I'd already been to with the insurance companies.
Wow. Good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, I come up with this idea. So then initially I was going to be a salesperson for him. No, and then I went into the transcendental.
Right.
Form another company. And I approached him with it.
Right. And
I solidified the deal, and I wasn't in good financial shape at the time. So I offered him 60% of the ownership and 40% for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like enticing for him. So we got a brand new van, we got a machine. He had a guy that worked for him that did the work, but I was the door-to-door sales guy. So I went to the same people. Right. That I'd gone to with the insurance, rural communities in New Brunswick.
Right.
So the point I'm leading up to is, New Brunswick is harsh in the winter, sort of like Chicago, probably. A lot of snow. Not many people are wanting their carpets clean, right? Now, when you have a family and you need to get some income coming in,
right,
you do whatever's necessary.
Sure.
Because necessity is the greatest motivator. So I actually went out on the road now in the dead of winter with my van, my worker machine, and went door to door and did $2,000 worth of carpet cleaning in wintry, snowy days.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would go to their door and they would say, well, we're thinking of getting it done in the spring. And I'll go, well, I don't know where we're going to be in the spring.
Right.
Why don't you today?
That's an example of courage, going out there, doing it. And so as a result of doing that, now you find that you're actually good at it and probably one of the only ones doing it in winter.
We were pioneers. I mean, even before winter, we were pioneers. No one had gone to those rural areas with carpet cleaning door to door, because there was St. John, New Brunswick was 30 miles away from where we were working along the Bay of Fundy.
Right.
And a company would come out if someone called them. They would do the job and go back to the city. Well, I went right to the community and stayed right there for a week.
And it's so much more cost effective also.
I would just drive there because it was like 150 miles from home. So
sure.
And we were pioneers going along this coast, like 11 weeks, I think we spent, and people would call the motel asking for us because we had cleaned their neighbor's home or, you know, their friends or whatever. So all these things are stored in my brain, that the things I've done, the things I've had to do. And when I got into the tavern, well, that became
also part of the whole.
Well, maybe a detriment, because it became my comfort zone.
I see. You know, regardless of that comfort zone and everything else, and the fact that you're aware of it means that you can buck it anytime. No pun intended, of course. But and Luc, Lawrence reminds me of the story of that man who stood on the edge of the harbor. I don't know if you heard the story, Lawrence. This man was standing on the edge of the harbor, and there was a king in this land who was crying and he's screaming and asking the townspeople to save his daughter, who was on a boat. You know, the princess was on a boat that was sinking about 100 yards from the shore. And nobody was jumping in because there were sharks. You could see the fins, hundreds of sharks in the water, and no one wanted to dive in and save the princess. And then he realized that people are not courageous by nature, that you have to somewhat reward them. So he offered half his kingdom in wealth and his daughter's hand in marriage to the first man that could dive in and save his daughter. And you know what happened? There was a big splash. A young man was seen swimming frantically to the boat, and he finally was kicking the sharks as he went, left, right, center. And then he went onto the boat, grabbed the princess, put her around his neck, and he swam back, kicking the sharks and everything, and came onto the shore. Both of them made it safely. And I think his name was Lawrence. I'm not sure. But
I think it's possible.
And he stood before the king, and he was panting away. And the king said, "Young man, you have such courage, Lawrence. I want to give you half my kingdom and my daughter's hand in marriage." And then Lawrence spoke up and said, "Your Majesty, I don't need your daughter's hand in marriage. I don't need your money and your wealth. Just find me the bastard who pushed me in the water."
Good one. Love it.
So sometimes when we have no choice,
yes,
we have to swim.
Yeah,
we swim with the sharks. We do what we have to do.
Yeah, once your name's up in the on screen, like Lawrence Buckley co-host, there's no escape. There's no
way of you backing out. And in fact, Mr. Luc's life has been pretty much that. He's been thrown in the water several times. Tell Lawrence about being thrown in the water in Serbia. Was it Serbia or Croatia? I can't remember where I threw you.
Slovenia as well.
Okay.
Was,
tell him that story. Tell everybody that story.
Public speaking has always been one of my biggest fears. Getting up on stage in front of people, something about it, always kind of frees up somehow.
Just to give you a little bit of a backdrop, when I was doing seminars in Philippines, in Manila, we had about 2,000 people in the room, sometimes 2.5. And so I slammed Luc in front of the microphone halfway through, and he did well for about 10 minutes and froze up again. And
got involved.
Yeah, that's his first time.
Yeah.
But his second time is this thing, the Slovenia thing. Continue. Sorry.
My dad was set to do a seminar over in Slovenia, Meta Secret 2-day program. He had some health complications at the time that prohibited him from traveling. So he volunteered me to go in his place.
Nice.
And to be in charge of a room full of people for 2 days was certainly far outside my comfort zone. But you jump in, you swim, and it gets easier and easier as you go.
He's still uncomfortable. You see how much his body moves? He's remembering all of that. I remember the first day he called me, and he said, next time I got them, motherfucker, this is your dream. It's not my dream. And then the second day, Lawrence, you should hear how comfortable he was at the end. Hey, I'm getting the hang of this. Yeah. They're actually listening to me. Oh my God, I love this thing, and it's like so much fun. And it brought out his better self, and then soon he realized that all of that stuff was happening in his head. Exactly. And it's what holds us back. But he's gifted. He's got the talent. You too, Lawrence. You could except for the darkness, you could run your own podcast and share with the world. You're reading 1,000 books. Share with the world what you're reading.
Funny you would say that. What I did the other day, now, I was trying to prepare for this, so I thought, well, Mel has this professional microphone, and I actually went on Amazon and searched microphones. So I'm actually on sort of a path to order that microphone and
wait. Did you order it yet?
No, I didn't order it yet.
Okay, get this. Wait. Here's the professional microphone. Costs you $250. It's called a Yeti. You see that name?
YETI?
Yeah, it's a black Yeti. No, it's not.
And that's a USB mic?
This one is called a blackout. It's USB, exactly.
USB.
And they even have it without the USB, but it doesn't cost more than $250 or less.
Yeah,
and it's usually sold out on Amazon. But wait until it comes back again, and then you have it. And it looks like this. Take a look at this. See?
Wow, that's professional.
Well, it looks professional. It's got the feel of a professional mic.
Yeah.
The sound is awesome, and it's got settings. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, there's
the camera.
Yeah, I see that.
And this. Now, let me tell you how simple, idiot simple this is. If it's got settings that allow you to have the mic only facing here. It's a multi-directional mic. In other words, you can set it so that two people from either side. So if I'm doing an interview with somebody over there,
yes, I understand.
So we only hear both of them. We can have it a setting so that all four people in a table can be heard. Right. A setting where only one person can be heard, and one setting where it has an ability to do some other special thing. Hang on for a second. What was it? Where the microphone is not unidirectional. So anybody speaking from anywhere, they'll pick up the background. It's like a waterfall or something like that.
Yes.
Cool, eh?
No, the one I was looking at, and that one sounds really good. The one I looked at was only about $80.
Well, you get what you pay for, though.
Well, exactly.
It will fall apart.
Here's the way I've always said about purchasing something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say something is $80. A microphone's $80, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're going to pay that $80 anyway. So look at the difference between $80 and $250. So that's all it's costing you for that $250.
Wait, the $250 was in Singapore dollars. How much is that in US?
Oh, I don't.
I don't know what that is. Maybe about 180.
Oh,
maybe
even better. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. That why would I pay $80 for the cheaper one if that one's going to be, we'll say, 180? So
it will last you a lifetime.
$100 more is all I'm paying, right? Because I was going to pay the 80 anyway. So that's why I always look at something. Why buy the cheap-ended one that's going to wear out when you can get the higher end for the difference?
And you can sound better.
Right. That's important.
And Luke will be sounding better also and holding up a mic, but he hasn't fixed it yet so that it speaks.
Well, he hasn't located
Still
his.
trying to sort out this driver.
He's been
driver
busy. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's got company.
Okay, good. Good. Well, anyway, his driver is pronounced Ellie. I think it sounds like Ellie. Yeah, that's the driver.
E-L-L-I.
So, yeah. If you tell Ellie, she'll beat him on the head with a stick and make him do it.
Beautiful lady, by the way. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, she is an amazing soul. I've never enjoyed some of the stuff of strays that Luc drags in, but this time I'm wow. He has my blessings. She has my blessings. Both of them. I mean, I am just impressed.
One thing I've found over the years, like, you know, dealing with so many people, like in my business, thousands and thousands, you can see someone walk in and it's almost like you know who they are before they speak.
Yes.
Right? Because they project to the world what's going on the inside. So they may have this kind of a hateful look or maybe sad or whatever. So when Luc came on for the first time, there's this smiley young man projecting to the world who he is without even speaking. Same with Ellie. You know, very down to earth, very loving. You know, these are all projected.
Right.
And that comes from experience. So, you know, why am I here today? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't supposed to be here, if I didn't feel comfortable with both of you. You know, Mel, always smiling, joking. Why would I go on a program where someone was too serious or saying things that I didn't care to hear or whatever?
I can be serious.
Can be real serious. We all can. We have many hats. You know, I sold insurance door to door, and I'll get back to this. When I first moved to New Brunswick from Windsor, Ontario, I worked in the retail field, building supplies. So, but I started reading these books, you know. I started out with Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, and it made me aware of what people were doing. Like the shipper at the company was storming in, like all like angry, something was happening out in the yard or whatever. So it made me aware of people's actions, you know, and what was happening. So then I got into Napoleon Hill's book,
yes.
You know, reading his works. So I'll backtrack a bit. So anyway, I was working at Ford of Canada in the assembly plant because my ex-wife's uncles worked there, and they.
Where is that?
Windsor, Ontario, across from Detroit.
Okay, Detroit, yeah.
So anyway, they said Lawrence should come to Windsor and work at the Ford plant, and you know, it was good money back in the day.
Yeah.
So we packed up and went to Windsor. So I'm working at Ford. And then I realized, you know, I do not like this. I do not like working in a factory, the noise, everything about it. Every 18 seconds, the motor line would move. And I had a job of putting the sprocket onto the block. It was the 400 engine. I would just tap it, and then 18 seconds later, it's another one in front of me. So you're almost like a robot.
Right.
So I decided to go and work at the building supply company, the Matthews Lumber Company. Less money, but you know, I knew I needed to take a different direction from working in a factory. So I got, you know, working in the building supply business. And then one day I saw a little wee ad in the Windsor Star, salesman wanted, at the Windsor Lumber Company, a very old lumber company in Windsor. So that came from reading Napoleon Hill's book, right? So then I went and applied, and the manager said, well, Bill doesn't usually hire people from another company, but we're going to hire you. So that's how I got into retail sales.
Right.
Then I decided I want to move back to New Brunswick, where I'm from originally. And so when I got there, there's only 2 jobs available at the Canada Manpower Center. One was operating a Coke truck, and I couldn't see myself driving a big Coke truck and slugging cases of Coke. The other was selling insurance door to door.
That would have demanded that you're be comfortable with rejection as well.
Well, it was the fear. You know, we talked about fear, number 50 in your book. I had to go for the training, and I'm driving towards it. And I've got all this fear happening in me. All I see is, piles of logs on the side of the road. It's like culture shock. I came from the city to this rural, forest province, and I didn't know where I was going to.
What year was that? Do you know what year?
1976.
Oh, okay. Well, wow, that's way back.
You were 18 then.
Yeah. True. Luke, just to give you an idea where Windsor is, we used to drive, 3, 4, 5, 6 times when you were kids. You were 6 years old, 7 years old. We drive from New York to Chicago. Sometimes we take the Canada route, and we go through Windsor, and we'd stay at Windsor actually.
Yeah.
And it was always fun. And then we come back down to go to the zoo in what's that? Was that county? Was it in Indiana? No.
Oh, in the States.
It was in Ohio somewhere.
Ohio. Okay.
Toledo. Just outside Toledo. Yes, that's right.
I was in Toledo once. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, and there's this zoo where you drive through. The animals are not in cages. You drive through them. Yeah. And the kids were terrified. You should have seen the looks on their faces. It was amazing.
I've got a story about that too in Western Ontario. The same thing.
Yeah. So when we talk about all the jobs that you did, you had to pretty much walk into situations you were not clear about, brand new situations that would elicit fear. Exactly. And even though you've been through pain and sorrow, and happiness comes and goes, pain and pleasure comes and goes with a lot of people as well, like the wind. What was the kind of thinking that allows you to think in terms of those kind of possibilities? Because I think everyone who's listening right now would want to know how Lawrence decided that, hey, hell with this, I'll go forward. Yeah. Just like Luke decided, okay, hell, I'm thrown in the water. Just find me the bastard to push me in the water because now I got to perform. And he performed so well that everybody gave him outstanding, testimonials for what he did. So how did Lawrence do that?
Well, we don't know what we're capable of until we're thrown in with the sharks, like you were, right? That's where our strength comes from. Just by doing something you're afraid to do. Not having all the answers, people want everything to line up before they do something. Now, when I went to New Brunswick, and now I've got a young family, my children are little babies, basically, 2 and 1 or whatever, and it's survival, right? For me, it was survival. So I knew I didn't want to do the Coke truck job, right? So I chose the insurance, but I was already conditioned for the insurance because on the front page of the book that I was reading by Napoleon Hill, it was the introduction was by W. Clement Stone.
Wow!
So it's like a thread, a thread of we talked about, amor fati, love your destiny. Well, that was my destiny, right?
It was like a sign.
Yeah, the thread was like, oh my God, I'm going to work for this guy that I just read about, right?
Yeah.
So terrified, like I go there, I'm set up in this motel by myself. It's May 24th weekend, which is a holiday weekend here in Canada, the Queen's birthday. I go to the building where the training's going to happen. There's no one in the building. It's like an office building with a restaurant in the bottom. So I finally get to the classroom and there's like me and the instructor. And maybe one other person came along, I can't remember. So the training was 1 week of classroom, then you go back home, then you come back for the second week of training, and that was it. Then you're out in the field. Now the field means you go out knocking on doors, contacting existing clients, but your manager takes you out for the first day and he does all the selling. Then he turns the income over to you. He turns the money over to you. The first day that I went out with him, it was like $90. Now, to me, that was a lot of money, because I came from a retail job paying probably $65 a week. And I'm just, I just got $90 for one day.
As they say in Canada, it's no small change, eh?
That's right, eh? So,
So
anyway, that's what led me to, then I started doing the door-to-door sales on my own, and, but we had an organized sales presentation. So because of that, because of the organized sales talk, you could overcome your fear by, getting into action, using affirmations to be enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. But there's nothing to lose by trying and a great deal to gain if successful. By all means, try. Do it now. Do it now. That's what Mr. Stone did when he was 16 years old, selling insurance in downtown Detroit.
It was Conant Nightingale that made W. Clement Stone who he was as well, and Lloyd Conant was the one who started that together with Earl Nightingale, and he handed it over to his son. And do you remember Vic Conant, Luc?
Oh yeah.
Luc has met all the motivational superstars that I've had to work with, and a pleasure to working with. And Vic is a close friend. He lives in Chicago, and Conant Nightingale, of course, is in Chicago. It's only minutes away, maybe an hour's drive from where Ontario, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You could drive up and get past Wisconsin, and then you're there.
Yeah, I drove around there when my cousin and I drove out to Calgary in 2002, and that's the way we went. We looped around Chicago.
Yeah,
and we didn't go into the city, but we looped around it.
Yeah, they are just outside Chicago. In a place called Niles. Okay. Just to let you know, and once in a while, when Vic comes to town, we sit down. We have a nice steak dinner with his wife on this private golf course, and we'll have a little chat. But the person I wanted to talk about that I hope Luc remembers. Do you remember Charlie Tremendous Jones?
Absolutely.
The father of all motivational speakers, literally.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of working with him. Charlie and I became friends. Yes. And we worked together in Asia. We did a few things together as well. Mm-hmm. He's in the Metasecret movie, and not long after he died, actually. And I just very, 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 very lucky to have met him. In fact, the movie did not come out in time for Charlie to see it, which was kind of sad. Yeah, I know. And he lived in Pennsylvania, maybe about 10 miles from Hershey. Just outside Hershey, where all the chocolates and stuff were.
There too, yeah.
And his wife was so nice and kind, showed us all his collections, and literally things that belonged to Thomas Edison were in his house. Do you remember that?
That's amazing.
It's amazing. These phonographs were not the records at that time. They were cylinders. I don't know if you even remember the cylinders. And so he had all... And he had an entire basement. I think it was about 50 square feet or more, that was filled with a train set that went through mountain sceneries and what have you. And it was all Christmassy. And and Charlie made me sit with him to read the Bible, because he was on his bed. He couldn't move very much. And he would stop me and said, put some feeling into it. What are you doing? Well, the reason I mentioned him is because when I mentioned that not too far away from there was he said, what are you doing to improve yourself on a daily basis? I said, well, I've been starting off reading this Think and Grow Rich. He said, get away from me. I don't want to meet you. I don't want to see you anymore. I said, are you okay, Charlie? What did I do wrong? And he said, I don't want to hear about that guy. Don't mention his name again. Napoleon Hill? I said, you just did it. And he says, no, that man's a womanizer. And he's been married 4 times. And he doesn't believe in that. He went on and on and on and on. I said, well, okay, I'll stop. And we went back biblical and we started to talk about different things. But the reason I mentioned Charlie is because he said, you would be the same person. In fact, he was the one who coined that entire phraseology. In 5 years, you're going to be the same person, except for the books you read and the people you meet.
Exactly.
And so you've had a great opportunity to meet people, Lawrence, through their books,
Yes.
Because the person condenses about 10 years of their life in a book. And so you've had an opportunity to do that. Right. And share that with the world. And today you're sharing your life story with us. And you and I have parallel stories. Almost. Like I said, the mine happened way back in 1996. And I haven't been fortunate enough to repeat those mistakes. So I don't anymore. I have 2 kids. That's enough for me already. And now I'm just sitting and waiting for revenge time when they have their own kids, and then we'll see how it feels.
I have 2 grandchildren.
Wow! Congratulations. How old are they?
My granddaughter is she'll be 11 in September.
Wow!
My grandson just turned 14. However, they are out in Calgary, Alberta. Where Rocky Mountains are. My trip was booked for. I go out every year, and my trip was booked for June 26th. Right. Of course, with the pandemic, I had to reschedule. So postpone, I should say. I didn't reschedule. So I really miss being with them. My 2 children. My one son works for a big corporation called Weatherford. It's a big oil service company out of Houston. Right. So he's been in that business for 22 years. He's an engineer. Right. And the other boy works for the city of Calgary as a business strategist.
Wow, good for you.
So both of them are doing exceptionally well. We communicate as often as we can. The one boy, the youngest, calls me every week, usually on his way home from work, because when he gets home, it's family time, and he likes to take that time, Dad, and him and I. And it's always a pleasure, and it's always positive, and he's got such positivity in his voice. My other son. Him and I FaceTime once in a while. Like he does FaceTime, but I send them a text. I go, just checking in, see how you're doing. The one boy has had tumors removed. He's had cancerous tumors removed. Right. Starting in his 30s. So he's had a lot of medical challenges.
Have either one of them or both of them taken on your positive outlook in life, your possibility thinking, that sort of thing?
So, I believe that it's through osmosis. I believe just because of who I am and how I speak with them when we talk, that they have adapted my...
Now, by osmosis, you mean like the new girlfriend? Her name's Osmosis?
Yeah. Just the fact we're just having a conversation and it's going into their being.
Right.
So then they become positive because of Dad, and they'll even mention it sometimes. Dad, you're always so positive, and So I have that gift to give my children.
Right.
Don't talk about the weather, the politics, or whatever. Things that are out of our control.
Right.
So it's always encouraging. That's why I put in there one day: listen, encourage, don't try to change.
Right.
Because what I learned one time with my eldest son is I wanted him to be a certain way. And then I realized he's got to go down his own path. He will learn as he goes, right?
Right, exactly.
All I can do is encourage.
Sure, absolutely. And Lawrence, I really appreciate your sharing all of this as well. We looks like we've lost Luc because I think the same thing that happened the last time. His computer ran out of battery, or his phone did, and he's gonna try and get on at some point when he's found his battery and everything else. Let's hope that that's the issue and the problem.
Yeah.
But we're also being joined by Ashok Thakur from New York. You've heard him before, right?
Oh yeah, we became friends on Facebook, so I followed his stuff. I went on his program one day too. And
good.
I saw one of the photos he posted at the Awesome Fest, because I follow Vision stuff. I have some of his works. I have his book, and I've watched his videos, and it's like a connection of different people.
Sure.
Celebrating life.
Vision is one of those people that is the pioneer, one of the pioneers that are pushing the idea that, yes, we can have all the negatives in the world dealing with everything else, but there's also methodologies and people out there that are helping people become better, and to be able to not just grow but transform their life into what they want. And so there's one school that does that. Then you have the other school of thought with all the mystics and all of that, telling them that there's nothing you need to do, which is basically rest like a tree, because this thing about praise, and when people praise you, they blame you, or you have gains, you have losses in your life. Like I talked about before, pleasure and pain and sorrow, they will come and go like the wind. But to actually be happy, these mystics are telling us that we need to rest like a tree, that blows in this wind, and some of the leaves will fall off, some of the leaves will regrow. And if you can be like that and be silent, there's nothing you need to do.
Right.
And I'm working with Ashoka, or talking with him about him sharing his ayahuasca shamanism studies. And so maybe if he would like to come on, that would be very good as well, Ashoka, especially if you're listening. Join Lawrence and I. We're talking about how to deal with lack of courage in your life, pain, how to overcome some of the difficulties you've had in life. And they're not small things. We're talking about very big life challenges that even Lawrence has had.
Mel, I have to interject for 1 second. I do have an appointment at 11, so I will, probably go off air, close to that, because it's a lady from the bank that's supposed to call at 11.
You've got 9 minutes, so if you want to leave any time in between,
I'm going to stay till the very end of my
All right, Ashok, if you want to join us and take over and chat, that would be very, very cool. And then we can wrap up the session for the week. I just wanted to ask you one more question, Lawrence.
Okay.
I've been struggling as to how often I should be running this program, and then how structured I should keep it. Because my dream is to actually do this full time, and to make it available as we slice and dice and put it out in 15-minute little packages and stuff for people. But I wanted to be able to do this regularly. Now, do you think twice a week like we're doing is okay, or should we do it every day like I used to? What do you think?
I'll give you my input from my perspective.
Okay, please.
I definitely, and maybe not everyone has the time to do it, but I really look forward to the 5-day-a-week on Common Sense. So that was something for me to look forward to, because my life is kind of on hold as far as my employer goes, because the bars, apparently as of today, they can open with restrictions. So I don't even know if they're going to be calling me back for my day shift. I only worked, till 5:30 during the day. So what I found about your show being on every day, it gave me structure and something to look forward to. So that's just my point of view, So when it was cut back to 2 days, I, still, as you've seen, I've been faithfully, loyally, tuning in at 9:30, because I have my
you know why I have it on only twice a week is because I had this project that someone gave me to do about 6,900 pages.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't realize it was that many. It was the equivalent of writing about 30 books that are 200 pages each, roughly.
Wow.
And so a promise is a promise, doesn't matter, and there's no love lost or anything of that sort. And I promised him I'd deliver it by Monday, which is coming. It was supposed to be today. I didn't obviously finish it.
Right.
And once that is done, then I can go back to creating, doing, and maybe even with your suggestion right now, run this program every day, but keep it not 2 hours like we've been doing, but keep it to an hour max.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That'd be a good idea. I like the fact that it's live, because you mentioned you would have some pre-recorded stuff, in your new format. And my point of view is the fact that when it's live, it's so interactive, because we are triggered by other people's thoughts.
Yes, we are.
When someone says something, then it triggers something in our own brains, and then we can reply or give our input. Whereas if it's pre-recorded, I'm just not sure how that would really work. As far as
maybe I'll head back to the drawing board with Luc, and I have a list of people, friends, Luc, the big hoo-has, the motivational hoo-has, that we will call and start to arrange shows with them as well. Maybe 1-2 hours would be not uncommon to do. Yeah. And just to give people a different way of thinking, I tried to switch to possibility thinking, but then I found out I need a structure for that. So between Luc and I, we're going to be producing a number of courses that we will take online. And these things will just be discussions about those courses. And we'll invite the world to come and join us in one big forum.
Yeah, I would look forward to that for sure.
Great. Awesome. You better get going.
I'm going to sign off. She's going to call me at 11.
In less than 4 minutes. That's all you have.
Gentlemen, Lawrence, it's been a pleasure. Too bad
Lawrence,
I was in the shadows.
For joining
Thank you, Lawrence. The pleasure was all ours. Thank you for sharing. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful day, both of you.
Thank you.
And everyone that's listening in today.
Awesome.
I've drawn a few people to the show, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mona's a friend of mine. Mona came on.
Oh, yes. And, I appreciate that.
A man named Chris Jan. So I try to lead people to your program also. Just
I appreciate
so they can have a good view of,
Lawrence, bring the entire bar.
I'd like to. Okay.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Lawrence from Canada, Ontario. And really, Luc, Windsor, where he was where we would stay in those, what do we call it? The Patel hotels. The Patel motels. Those are really incredibly sketchy places. You park your car and you go in. It's like, oh my God, Dad, can we leave? Even you guys at that age needed to leave that place. And I was, anyway, the only way to get you guys to sleep at that point, jumping from bed to bed, was tell you about the cockroaches and what you were raising. And then you guys listened. So what do you think? Summary of everything that Lawrence spoke about so far.
I absolutely agree. It's a great guy.
I noticed you were glazed half the time. It was like,
still working on my second cup of coffee here, but no, I agree completely with everything that he said. And sometimes we do have to get thrown in the water. And life really is all about stepping out of our comfort zone, and only way to grow.
Mm-hmm. The comfort zone. And today we're supposed to be talking about dealing with suffering and pain and what have you. And I've asked Ashok to join us, but he's not clicking on anything. So he must be busy with somebody or something. So he's not gonna. So maybe you can give us some ideas, Luc, about how we can suffer. Remember I said to Lawrence that sometimes the suffering is necessary to help you grow, especially the times of struggle. Because even a struggle or a pain or a loss or a relationship breakup, all of that can become your teachers, your gurus, in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I found, let me kick off something first. I found that sometimes if I can find a quote unquote safe relationship to be in, so that I can process my suffering, and obviously not somebody with that voice. That's a whole different thing. It'd be very difficult to listen to throughout the day, but suffering is actually meant to be dealt with in a relationship. Don't you agree? Because we all need kind of people to walk alongside with us, or maybe on this journey of suffering. They would make it a little bit easier knowing that we're not alone. And we know sometimes from the research, the psychological research, and also from our own experience, that social support plays a very big role in helping people cope with all kinds of trials and tribulations and pains and disappointments and expectation failures and all of that. So eventually, those things will translate to growth, for us. Not from them, not as a result of what they say, but as like maybe someone to bounce some thoughts off a wall, some emotions. People who are safe for you to express your true feelings about your pain, knowing that they're not going to spread it out to other people.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
And that's for a lot of people, that's a very rare thing to find. We put a lot of trust into some people sometimes, and confide in them. We share our secrets, and when that trust is broken, some people find it very difficult to trust in someone new.
To repair that, yeah. I mean, we're talking about when you are already going through pain, and you find somebody you want to work with to process that pain, not the one with the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like close connections, any kind of close connection to create some kind of positive outcome, because you want to grow through the suffering in the first place, the first suffering. Maybe they're not a mechanism for it to work, but you get the idea.
Absolutely. I mean, with other people, it's so much easier. My relationship with Ellie right now, it's been a godsend. We're able to share our pains and our the stuff that's difficult at the moment, and help each other find a way through it, and relieve suffering in all kinds of other ways. I mean, even when I'm working absolutely crazy hours up until early morning, and getting up a couple hours later, so a little glazed over, she'll usually come over, make me another cup of coffee to keep me going, and to have someone constantly looking out for you like that, it's brilliant.
That's cool. I don't have that. But anyway, we'll borrow Ellie's mom, I guess. I'm not sure. But anyway, when I find myself in that situation, what I've had to do, what the Mel Gill had to do, I couldn't quite put effort into reaching out to people who can be with me to help me process in a painful time, because almost everybody I meet, 99.999%, Luke, are having a tough time themselves, are having a very difficult time. They're in the midst of a crisis, they're in the midst of a breakup, they're in the midst of a divorce, they're in the midst of a death, they're in the midst of working through some things from the past, and so on and so forth. And I know that this is very crucial, especially if I'm going through some kind of an emotional upheaval of my own. So there was nobody to talk to. So what I did was I surreptitiously, quietly just chose them. It took some effort to find the right people, but they didn't know that I was going through what I was going through. I just needed to hear them and talk through some stuff, say a few things, because the key to growing through suffering is to not feel like you're alone in it. Just listen to what people have to say. Others may not be able to change my circumstances because of what they're going through, because of the struggle they have, but they can change the way you feel about yourself and the way you feel about your circumstances just by your being able to help them through theirs. And sometimes it's also an ability to talk through in the third person about what's going on and then hear what's happening. So I don't know, maybe a deeper appreciation of vulnerability, maybe can lead to positive change.
Understood.
Who understood?
Ellie just came in to make me another cup of coffee.
Okay, tell me what else works. What did she say? I didn't hear what she said.
I was in here 10 minutes, 30 minutes
Oh yeah.
What'd she say? It's hard to hear what she said.
She said she wishes she could be there to bring you one as well.
Oh, oh, bless your soul. Yes, thank you. You know, when I was there, and unexpected, I would be sitting down. I didn't ask for it. I'd be sitting down, looking at the outside, figuring to myself, okay, now I need to pull myself up and go have a shower. And I know you guys are walking around and you're also waking up. And she would just bring me a cup just like that out of the blue. And I'm going like, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much. It's like, and say, bless her, Luke.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever you have to work through with this one, work through. I think this is a real keeper, and I mean it. You know, in the best way possible. There's nothing you can't work out with people that you are compatible with, and you guys have a lot of intelligence compatibility, emotional compatibility. You guys are beginning to see things in the right way. Both of you are panicked out of your skulls, not knowing what to do next, and so that's useful. You know, because life, this COVID thing is not funny. It's here to stay, and it's here to stay right through the end of December. It's not gonna get better, and soon, I'm not sure if even Bulgaria might be a safe place. So you guys may have to get used to that tiny, space around you and make it as comfortable as possible. And just buckle down and hunker down through it, and that also can give you a chance to work together. But we're talking about before we go. Let's. Looks like nobody else is going to join us, so let's talk about this. Isn't it sad to have a StreamYard that allows up to 10 guests, and we don't have enough? So maybe next time, what we do is we prearrange a lot of our guests, and I'll need you or at least help too. I'll give you the contacts. You just talk to these guys and say, today's topic is X, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to steer through this, that, and the other thing. What do you think?
Not a problem. We'll get it done.
Okay. Sometimes, though, when you need to find ways in which to suffer well, that means not to get rid of the suffering, but to experience growth with suffering. You need to approach and express your emotions, because once you find people to talk with on this journey, as Luke has found, you need to be able to express your emotions freely, openly, rather than suppress and run away from them. And so I've seen that now as he goes through monumental changes and inner, outer changes. He corroborates the research that shows that approaching and expressing your emotions related to suffering from the past, whether the suffering could have been as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult, and going through relationship problems, that suppressing emotions leads to negative outcomes. Negative outcomes like increased anxiety, depression, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. So you need emotionally safe relationships in order to be able to do this. So you have to trust that your vulnerable emotions will be handled with care and compassion and not just tossed to the wind or used against you like weapons. Remember a time, Luke?
Very much so.
Yeah. And it costs us more than a ham leg and a whatever to deal with that also at the same time. So when you express your true emotions in the context of safe relationships, it sets in motion a whole series of positive processes in your brain. You begin to connect more deeply to others, which is healing in itself, by the way. So in addition, you also begin to discover the meaning of your suffering in the context of your life story. And then you start to get what we call, Luke, the helicopter view of everything. Remember we were talking about that before? Yeah. So anyway, I know for myself, this was definitely true for me in some of my relationships. And they were not easy relationships. They were tumultuous at best because we're dealing with somebody who's emotionally mature and then somebody who's not, and it's very, very difficult. It's a do or die, and usually they threaten death, and it's a whole different thing. And so, in relationships with ourselves or relationship with others, we have to have someone. It's always very good. And if there isn't anyone, then programs like ours, which is Uncommon Sense, an experiment right now with father and son theater, maybe they will help us to bring your friends who are in pain, lonely, and then maybe we can help them through that difficult time if they listen to us. There's always a place for this sharing. There's always a place for vulnerability, and you'd be surprised. You get a greater understanding of yourself sometimes. You want to add something to that, Luke? I see it in your eyes.
I think every situation is unique. Every situation is different, and there's we all find different ways to cope. Some have proven more healthy than others.
What are some healthy ways? I sometimes found that when you start to deal with all your emotional suffering, you begin to reflect sometimes on and maybe even reorder your priorities. The stuff you go through, the tribulations, the pain, the trials, have a way of making you readjust what you thought was important before. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's like a little puppy grabbing its tail and going round and round and round. You're busier than hell. At the end of the day, you are tired, but have you progressed? You haven't. So this can sometimes help you grow. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to actively try to address all these things and chase your tail like a puppy. It's a complete other thing to have a pre-programmed plan of how you want to deal with these things and how you want to take it forward, and make sure that everything is in line and being done at the right time.
So then, yes, and then you can start to become intentional.
Yeah, all about consciousness and being aware.
Intention, yeah. Consciousness and intentionality. Is there a word? Intentionality? Intentionality? I'm not sure. But anyway, you can be very, very intentional then, right? About changing your routines, your habits, your rhythms in ways that will adjust to your revised priorities. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the same is true with our suffering. And with those, with those habits, the way we think is essentially a habit, right?
Yeah.
If we consciously and intentionally decide we want to break out of a certain cycle, a certain mode of thinking that's not serving us, that's the key to freedom from that suffering.
In other words, you're saying you should use your experiences of suffering to help other people because it gives people an immense sense of meaning, right? If they're going through familiar trials and such like. In fact, there is someone who might join us and tell us a little bit more about that. And he's in New York right now. And
I'm actually in California right now.
Oh, you are?
How are you guys doing?
Good.
The
shy shaman. The shy shaman from, you look like you just woke up. The shy shaman from New York is now in California, where all gurus belong, right?
All what?
All gurus belong in California.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Mount Shasta. Where's the other places? PowerPoint, Sedona is not far from where you are. And Utah.
I'm actually interestingly on a ranch, my friend's ranch. It's like 40 acres ranch, and
wow.
everything you want. I'm like, oh, can we get some organic egg? They say, yeah, let's go to the backyard, pick it up from the chickens. So we got some eggs, and then whatever, like, oh, I need some wine. Let's have some wine. So from her own vineyard, she had the wines, like, so she picked it up starting with the year 2010. So we finished 2010 and the 2011, and we are going the other way, and 2012 and 2013, and we are working to bring it up to. Well, I wouldn't go up to 2020 because the last one they have it till 2018. So we are working on that one. Like, everything is like I said, oh, I need some honey for my tea. I go to the beehive.
Wow, how decadent! How decadent to have wine and eggs for breakfast. That's awesome.
With the honey in the tea, my turmeric tea, the honey, and then the piano. She plays piano, and we listen to the piano, sitting over there, and then it's amazing life. With, like, you can think about it from.
Are you attending some program, or are you giving a program, or are you just taking time out?
I mean, it will never be taking time out for me, because like go to the friends, and they got like, okay, let's talk about this and do the meditation. And you have that. Right. That's not work for me. That's not taking out time for me.
Sure. Absolutely.
And, it's like I see, this is one of the only places. They call it Santa Rita. It's like now from Santa Barbara. This is the only. This is one of the pioneers in the world, because so north to south or south to north, in that direction. This is the only valley, one of the two valleys anywhere, where the wind flows from west to east. So it gives a very special kind of grapes to make the wine. I woke up and I tuned in, and I saw with the nice water on my face.
He's practicing to be a guru, where we hear every other word. So we hear every other word, because then we have the spaces in which to think, what is that word? And this is how he leads us into enlightenment, with every other word.
But you can't hear me properly, like the words?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, because I picked up the phone and I brought it closer to my face.
Yes.
Like the weather is so unique, so they get a very unique soil over here. But right now, when I woke up, like, there is totally a fog onto the mountains, and then
show us.
Let's see.
Turn the camera around. But he hit the wrong button. It seems like your grandfather. It's just, or grandmother, they hit the wrong button. No, not that button. And then eventually I have to go there and I have to do it for them. So he may have tripped over the wire. We're not sure. But I'm curious to see the fog, and I'm curious to see the place. Aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. See, this is one of those things where you realize that a lot of people in the world are looking for spiritual direction. They're looking for something that can make them feel better than the circumstances they find themselves in. Working at a job they don't like, being in a relationship they don't like, being in a place they don't like, and so on and so forth. And so they're looking for gurus and gurvis to help them adjust their inner thermostat so that they feel at peace. And that was before, when we talked to Lawrence, and we said to him that all you got to do is be like a tree and be where you are, be nestled where you are, be happy where you are, and just allow that wind of change to come and go in and out of you. You don't have to worry about what to do, what not to do. Like the stress I caused myself with this project, for instance, that I'm doing, the 6,000 pages. It's my own deadlines, basically. Yes, the sooner he gets it, the more he can make his money and all of that. I realized that. So I decided to spend this weekend doing nothing but focus on it and finish it. And Monday delivery should be pretty good. And then at that point, we need to continue with me teaching people how to have a happy mind, and you teaching people how to have a healthy body, and how to follow all of that. So between the two of us, we should be okay. Yeah, because there'll be no credibility in me teaching people how to have a healthy body, especially looking, at least 20 kilos more than I should. But although, even at that level, again, the mind goes into all aspects of my body, and I don't suffer from a lot of things that other people suffer from normally. Have you noticed that? I mean, they complain about this, that pain, and this pain, and that pain, and this organ, and that organ, and all of that, except for the heart thing because of the banitas, in Bulgaria, maybe the unguarded, what have you, and all of that. But still, the point is that if you are not happy, then that unhappiness, the stress, turns the cholesterol, which is what your body needs anyway, into homocysteine, which then plaques up and kills you. The stress is what gives you a heart attack. The stress is what gives you a stroke at the end of the day. If you're happy, then anything you eat shouldn't really matter, as long as you do it in moderation, maybe not so many chocolates. Like in my case, yes, I know.
Surgeon might have something else to say about that, but
yeah, but heart surgeons die as well,
yeah,
so they're not entirely there as well. Here's Ashok again. Hey, Ashok.
Okay.
Yes.
So
hi.
Hi. So I tried to show you, but the signal is in a particular where we are living place. That's there, and outside it's not. But so I'm fine. So
yeah,
I don't know whether you can see it. In the back, there are mountains.
Oh, yes. Beautiful. Oh, my
and then
God.
Right. And it's like, let's see how far the signal goes.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to go too far. Don't have to go too far. Just do a slow 360. Just do a slow 360.
I don't think I can do it while being like that.
No. No. So you'll stand up. You'll have it over your head like that, and you will just turn slowly, like you are doing in the Hindi movies. Yeah?
Okay.
Slowly. Yeah.
Okay. So see this.
Wow.
So there is
gorgeous.
Those are the grapes, and behind those grapes, it's one of the biggest pot fields in California. They have like a security so tight, and they've gone to these grape farmers who are making wine and told them like if they're grape, like if somebody cross over, they are going to shoot them. Like they are that bad about that. So they are trying to get those pot people out of that, but there's a big like a lobby which is like falling for them. But like, let me do the 360 on that. And this weather changes like every couple of hours. That's why.
Wow.
Like you can have all beautiful grapes.
Sure.
But that's yeah, and that's like amazing, like how it is. But what are we talking about? I heard my name. You were talking with Lawrence. I'm like, okay, let me get up. Splash.
We're talking about getting over suffering, but at the same time using suffering and pain as teachers and conduits for growth. So that suffering is, we may not want to eliminate it, but we want to learn from it. And so how do we do that? How do you turn suffering into intangible gurus? Is that?
So the pain is actually an event happening in real time, and suffering is, for me, it comes more from your mind. So you could have a pain, but you may choose not to suffer. Suffering is repetitively thinking about that pain and who caused you that pain? So I've seen, like, most of the time it's like when you are suffering, you can minimize or stop the suffering by changing what you are thinking in your mind, because suffering is a mind concept rather than the actual thing with happening. Like, I had I got hurt a little bit on my shin, and I had the pain, but I choose not to suffer from that. And I remember, like, a couple of years ago, like, I was on a motorcycle going in Greece, um, going to this town, and we had an accident, and my both my knees got busted, and so of course there was a lot of pain. But I choose not to make it a suffering. And my friend, she wanted to go back to the hotel and show to the doctor, which makes sense. But we tried to find a doctor on that island. There was no doctor. Like,
Oh,
there was a clinic which was open right next to the
yeah.
pharmacy, and we asked them, and they said, "Oh, doctor is not here." We said, "You have his phone number?" They said no, and we said,
Was
"Oh,
that was that Mykonos or Santorini?
no, that was not Mykonos. What is the other place in Greece? Santorini.
Less
No,
Santorini. Yeah,
Santorini.
Santorini. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And
I
then,
remember that. I remember you had posted something about that.
right.
But
And
yeah, on Facebook, you said both your knees were busted. And I said, now you're gonna feel the pain of not being able to do doggy style anymore. But that's a different story.
I stopped to make it a suffering. So,
Yeah.
so I was with my friend. Like, so we are in this island, which was like 1.5 hour drive from
Mm-hmm.
Santorini, and she was like, "Okay, let me take you back," and this and that. I'm like, "No, we are going to enjoy this, because we came here and we decided we are going to have dinner over here, and we are going." So I walked that whole place, and like, we did whatever we wanted to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized, like, it was very painful for first half an hour, but after that, when I changed that I'm not going to let it become the suffering, I didn't even remember it
Mm.
till after 4 hours. We had dinner, we did the island, we came back, and I came back to the room, till I started thinking, oh, I have to treat it because it can get infected, and like, I have other issues. And I started thinking about it, and that's when, like, I won't be able to do anything. My knees are busted, like you said, whatever style you are talking about. But I was
Yeah, sure.
and that is the time I created that suffering, because now it became a suffering, because I said, oh, I can't do certain things. But once I changed my attitude again, I'm like, no, I'm in this beautiful place and I'm going to enjoy it. And my
This,
bunch of my friends came in and they brought the
yeah,
wine and everything,
sure.
and we sat down and enjoyed that. So I
After
think
5 bottles of wine, you don't remember the suffering anymore. This is
that's
this
right.
is this is this is what Luke said in the beginning of this program. He said you will experience pain, but suffering is optional.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree totally. And I
Was
also
that was
see,
that
like,
was that was that after A Fest in
yes, that
Mykonos?
was after a fest. Yes.
So you guys, as a small group of you, went on and stayed at Santorini. Do you know I stayed back in Mykonos at the same hotel? I didn't want to
Oh
go
my
anywhere.
God, I didn't know that. You
I
should have
spent
told
all
me.
that I spent all that time with Danny Tarta. He came to Mykonos to spend time with us, and we went and visited, and we discovered every restaurant there was in Mykonos at that time. It was so amazing. Yeah.
You didn't tell me, because some of my beautiful friends stayed back over there. I would have told them to.
Well, you were with some girl, so we didn't want to disturb you. So what the heck?
Yeah, but it's like for me, like, the and the suffering is like many times, like in a relationship suffering. If you think about it, it's like one of the persons say something and the other one totally interpret it different way, and then you don't even talk with each other, what was that, like, why it was like that, and because you assume that you are right and you heard it right, but that's not what you hear. Even if you heard the person saying the words and you heard a part of it, that's not all the story, though. You because you don't talk about it, and you want to suffer in that, you want to suffer in that pain. That's what causes, like, for me, uh, when I have that kind of issue, I like maybe 10 minutes, I sit down and think, and I'm like, we have to talk about that. Is this what you really mean? And that cut down. So I try to cut down the suffering time.
So what do you feel
Pain.
about that, Luke? You want to react to what he just said, Luke?
Oh, no, I think he's absolutely correct.
Which part is he absolutely correct about? Come closer to the microphone. Come closer to the microphone. Yeah.
My microphone's actually right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct about sending my beautiful heart friends to Mel Gill in Mykonos or something else.
I enjoyed the company of the people in Mykonos at that time. They were really very nice people, but there were a lot of heartbroken people. So I was working kind of through. There's never a time, Ashok, that I'm not working. I'm working all the time.
Yeah, but almost. Like a heart, isn't everybody is heartbroken? Like I was having
almost everybody is heartbroken. You know, yeah.
I think Dalai Lama is heartbroken because he cannot go back to Tibet.
Well, Samson came to me for a little different story, but that's a whole thing altogether. But I somebody was saying the other time, but Mel, you're around all of these hot women. I said, yes, they're hot because there's no air conditioning and the weather was quite bad and the sun was up there. But that's a different story. Other than that, I just don't see the outside. I just look at the eyes and I say, oh my God, even past all the makeups and all the, all the nice selfies and everything else. The true
the more beautiful they are physically, the more heartbroken they are.
Really?
Because they have
That's
a
an
more
interesting theory. Yeah.
Because they have got more chances of interacting with more people who comes into their life and they say, I love you, and then they break their heart. Okay.
Because what do you think about that, Luke? Is he correct about that? He just made a very broad statement. Is that correct? You dealt with a lot of hot women.
Yeah, I mean,
but just to let you know, this man who's about to speak at age 17 was dating a Victoria's Secret model. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Respond to him.
I think everyone is at different stages of their personal development, evolution, and certainly sometimes when people are quote unquote better looking, they can interact with some folks that are a little bit more shallow, and that's always going to lead to heartbreak. And
it's not when I make a statement, it's not a very generalized statement. It's like that's the most common of my experience, right? And it's always going to be. And whatever Mel Gill will say is like what is his experience into that one. Whatever Luke says is his experience.
No, I'm living vicariously through both of you. Okay, my life is listening to what you guys go through, and it's amazing, but it's true. Just for folks listening in right now, Ashok deals with a lot of hot women who have been dealing with, the in relationships where they've had very shallow men, but Ashok goes deeper.
I mean, it's the thing. It's like that's one of the things is because when we go through life, and I give you an example. Like when I was married, I didn't travel anybody. I didn't do any adventures or anything, and everything was going okay. But then when I got separated, I started traveling. Started doing all these experiences. Like, so now I'm on a motorcycle, so my knees will get busted, and I experienced a lot of things, including pain and everything. And one of my friends said, Ashok, you never had these issues when you were married. And I said, yeah, because I wasn't living the life. Like I'll go to the office and come back home. How my knees are going? chances of my knees getting busted or me getting hurt or me missing a flight is nothing because I'm not living the life. So when you start living your life, and that's what I was saying, like all these amazing, amazing people who came into my life, they were living life to the fullest. And once you live life to the fullest, and there are going to be certain things which are going to be happen, and heartbreak is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it also depends upon what is your definition of heartbreak, because you put in that limitation on that. You put in the limitation on the heartbreak. You are like, okay, uh, if she goes out with another guy or she breaks my
Mm-hmm.
heart. For me, that's not a heartbreak. I'm like, she goes out with another guy, she has another friend, and she want to explore. So that's not a heartbreak for me. And it's what do you put in the definition on, and that is dependent on how expanded your mind is, or how much it is messed up with all the programming and saying, oh, this is wrong, she can't do this or he can't do this. So you want to get a heartbreak, put in a real shallow definition of heartbreak. Say, like, if he look at another woman walking on the Hollywood street, my heart will break. Yeah, your heart is going to break so many times in a day, like when you're walking with him in Los Angeles, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you make it a little bigger, they say, okay, that's not it. But if he is holding somebody else's hand, okay, that's a heartbreak. And then, yeah, your heart is going to break, and you put in so much pressure on the other person. They will probably want to get out of that relationship because you restricted them so much. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if your definition expanded of that, and if your definition even expanded to like mine is a little way out, but I understand that it's not that normal. But if your definition is like if somebody want to go, your partner want to go and figure out things on their own with some other person, I'm okay with that. I'm like, okay, because I know where I stand in that whole thing. Uh, and
Well,
and
you
and
you
I
you know that somebody who is not mentally altogether there is going to be insecure about trivial little things like holding hands or even looking at somebody. Unless you're blind, it's very difficult not to do that, right?
yeah, but
So
their heartbreak is more often, right?
yeah, but you see that's it's combined insecurity with expectation failure, and now you got a disaster, you got a bomb ready to explode. You looked at them a different way. Why are you liking that Facebook post? Why are you, I saw you nod at that person, I saw the eye, I saw the movement, I saw the thing, so on and so forth. So it becomes a little bit difficult when you're dealing with somebody. Do I look better than that person? Or so on and so forth. That's never
and
ending.
and
That's a deep hole that you cannot pull yourself out of.
and I had the discussion with like a very conscious woman, and it came to like where I will think very conscious, beautiful woman. I would never think they had they ever had any body issues, right? But
Yes.
then when I talk with them, they like I had a conversation this week with somebody, and she said, "No, Ashok, we always have body issues, no matter what." But I said, "You look so beautiful. I cannot imagine. Um, you're one of the most beautiful women I've seen." But she said, no, I have those issues too. Like I struggle with it. And I'm so surprised how much pressure uh, people are living under to look in a certain
Yes.
way. So they are
Yes.
creating that
Yes.
pain. They are like
Yes.
manifesting that pain, and then they keep on thinking about it, and then it becomes a suffering, and then that suffering bleeds into their next relationship. The reason I said about like that beautiful woman, and then I got one of my friend. I mean, she lives in LA. She's a model, super 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 beautiful woman. And when I had the conversation with her, not this time, but like I think last year when I was here, uh, she's suffering from the same thing, and she don't have
Everyone.
any financial issue. She don't need to
Yes.
depend on a man. But like it's the same issue when I have it's actually kind of interesting though. uh, I passed by her when I didn't know her. I passed by her, and her whole body started shaking, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I thought maybe it's a mistake. So I go back. Like I was in a party. I go back, get a drink, and and I come back and I go to get my second drink, and she was at the bar, and her body like shake, like she has seen something like so strange. So I stopped by and I said, "Excuse me," and she started running away from me. I'm like, "That's so weird." So I wouldn't give up, and I
I,
gone to
I, I
her.
was I was like that the first time I saw you too, but it's a different story.
I can understand the first impression could be very deceptive.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Right. So I gone to her and I said, and so I was like the friend with my other friend, like I talked with him and I said, oh, I think I feel this weird energy from her. And he said, oh, she's always like that, right? Yeah, most of the people, she's not social or anything. And I was like, okay, that's very surprising. But I did go to her then. And she shivered the same way again. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know that I did not do anything in this life make you feel like that. But if I did something like that in my past life, that you are getting that reaction, I'm so sorry.
So
She became my
I now need to know, why was she doing that?
so yeah. So that's why, like once I said that, she started crying. There is another crying, beautiful woman right next to me on my shoulder, hugging me, crying. And I'm like, why is that? She said, because from the time I was born, my parents told me, and she is very beautiful, like beautiful blonde. Oh, and oh my God. And she said, my parents told me, you are so beautiful. Men are going to take advantage of you. So you have to be so careful. And she stopped trusting men. Every time a man comes in, those feelings comes up and she starts shaking. That's a convulsive reaction from her body. And so I hang around with her, and then she became a very good friend. In 1 month, she was
Wow.
a changed woman. Her life changed in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So she started dating. She started
How,
doing all the things that she should be doing.
if
Uh,
you can summarize roughly what you did to change someone like that?
I gave her the understanding that her past is not shouldn't define her present, because then she will be living in that past and she will always be scared all her life. She has to understand that the past is just in the memory, and memory doesn't even exist anywhere. Now
She
they
didn't
have
know. She didn't know this. I mean, everybody knows this, right?
yeah. Yes. So that's
I mean,
another
this was
thing
something
between.
new for her. You could read posters that tell you the same thing, but why did it suddenly click? Why? I mean, I'm sure she must have heard a lot of people say, even in investments, past gains are no indication of future gains, and so on and so forth. I mean, everybody with half a brain knows that. But
Yeah, but there is a difference between knowing something and experiencing something.
and
And I
how did
made
you
her
make her?
experience.
How did
What
you
is it?
do that? That's the one.
So
How did you
so
do that? I
so
want to know how you did that.
well, because when I started hanging with her, like every time I created more and more trust with my action or whatever I was doing, and making her
Okay.
realize. And then at a certain point during that hanging, she realized, and I did go on this special medicine trip with her, and she was like, okay, I closed my eyes, and I was like so getting scared, and all these demons started coming, and that those demons were telling me like they are going to kill me, and they are going to destroy me, and they are going to do all these things. And she said, I was so scared with my eyes closed. And she said, then I opened my eyes, and I saw you over there dancing blissfully right next to me. And I said, no, that's not the reality. This is the reality. There are men like this for him, who can live in bliss and who you can trust. And she said, my life changed
So,
forever after that.
all right. So Ashok was doing what we talked about before. And when you're dealing with your pain and your suffering, you need to find someone safe to be with, someone safe to knock off ideas and your pain and your suffering with. And when you find somebody safe like Ashok, at least say for a month.
Start booking my monthly appointments now.
Let's start booking your monthly appointments, and so then it becomes easier for you to experience or to release things that you've kept inside of yourself. So there's a form of catharsis that happens when you are with someone you can trust, who is not looking to get into your panties, at least not now, not in the first month, and so and therefore would like to work into getting into your head and into your heart more first than anything else. Is that correct, Ashok? Did I summarize that?
That's absolutely correct. And I think the part of it is like everybody knows everything, like you said. Like we have got so much information, but we don't know what is right, what is wrong. Like we know that we should be doing meditation. It gives you bliss, but till you experience it, the experience is the main thing. That's why like the retreats I'm doing is like they are called experiential retreat. They are not retreats, because for me is like I said, I don't even like to call it a retreat, but people don't understand the other words, because for me it's like you are getting away from somewhere to retreating you. I'm like, so the once you, if you get the experience, and I call it like a time with divine experience, because once you get that experience, then you will know. Nobody has to tell you like this meditation help you, or having a conversation with a conscious man or woman help you. You experience that. I think that is the major part which is missing, because now we have got all this knowledge, but who do we trust? And even if we trust somebody, like you are trusting it blindly, something that means you blocked yourself from the other possibilities, like, so experience is one, and that could be good or bad experience, but once you get experience, you have a deeper understanding of all the things you were reading, all the books you read, and so that's what I said. You experience it in a safe environment, and then your perspective will change on the things.
And there you have it. Ashok Thakur is shaman extraordinaire. He's running retreats around the world. You know how you live through life and you've had a lot of treats given to you? Well, with Ashok, he recycles those treats and calls it a retreat. So that way you will experience yourself in a new way as well. It's not so expensive because he'll be doing a lot of the work by himself. He's pretty much hands-on. So he knows what he's doing. So, Luke, you want to respond to that before we have to? It's already 11:45, guys. We've been on for about 2.5 hours. We have to call it a day at some point. So I think there's a limit.
In about 10 minutes.
There's a limit to what this ends. Yeah, how much information the gigabyte things hold with the StreamYard stuff. So we have to be careful about that.
And we have to go to, I got my two friends waiting. Like they were like, okay, why you're going? I'm like, I have to be on this show.
You go ahead and do that. I want to thank you very much. I saw Danny just now on Facebook. He couldn't be with us right now because he's with a companion. And so, and he's not dressed. So, we will have him on next time, and maybe you can come on Wednesday as well, and we'll have a mass discussion about what we'll do. We'll call some A-festers, A-fested people, and we'll chat about the topic next week. And let's call the topic something that will help you in your program, Ashok. How do we celebrate our failures? I mean, you said celebrating life. Let's talk about celebrating failures, because that's a offshoot and a segue into Luke's book that he's writing as well. A new way of thinking.
Depending on where I am on next Wednesday, we'll try to figure it out, because I don't know where I will be. So on this side, I covered, like, I have been to Big Sur and Mount Shasta and all those places. So I have to figure out where I will be by next Wednesday. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I will. I hear some music, maybe coming from your side.
No,
there is no music over here. Or is it just me?
There is so much silence over here.
Oh, your phone is funny. Could have been.
Actually, yeah. There's so much silence. Like we left. it's so funny that like my friend knows, like I sometimes get up at 3 in the morning and they're like, okay, let me walk outside on the ranch. She she has to warn me this. She said
Okay.
there is a young wild coyote over here, so I have to warn you when you go out. And
Yes.
there are mountain lions over here. Like I did not see a mountain lion, but she showed me the picture, which came and bite her dog. It did.
They are very big, and they have been known to drag people out. So don't wander off by yourself, because once your back is turned, that's it. They go for the neck, and after that, nobody can help you.
And thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ashok. Bye. Take care. See you Wednesday. Luke, we're gonna call it a day. You want to add something to close the chat? I want to thank you for standing by, being very patient. Would have loved for you to have, because I know both the guys we spoke to before, they don't give you a chance. You have to watch that moment when they breathe and in between the breath, boom, and then just go in there. And so this is good practice. It's a lot of fun. How do you feel about everything we talked about? I want to sum it up and maybe give some advice to people who have to deal with a lot of unpleasantness over the weekend.
I would say when you're having trouble processing something, when you're having any kind of trouble in life at all, it's usually because there's something that we haven't learned yet ourselves. And so, if our goal is to learn something, my grandmother always used to tell me we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. And so, if our journey requires that we learn something new in order to experience life in a different way, start listening for the answers. Start looking for all the signs and everything that is out there to teach you. That's helped me a lot.
How do we begin to look?
The first step is quieting your mind enough so that you can hear.
So in other words, if I hear you correctly, you're asking people to become more aware, more mindful. Is that correct?
100%.
100%. It's going to be tough to do 100% because it's easy to fall into 50%, maybe. Sometimes when you're too conscious, it's like, what the fuck, get me out of here. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, consciousness isn't a linear path. And, there might be, like everything in life, sometimes there's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Just keep consciously and intentionally setting your intention and doing your best each and every day.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Life is a tango. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. That's a tango. And once you realize it's a dance where the music ends at some point, then you become a little bit better. Luc Gill, thank you for being on the show. We will talk to you on Wednesday, where we hope to have a whole dozen people, maybe or more, on board. And we'll have more of a lively show. What do you think?
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me again today. And
thanks for being had.
Looking forward to next week.
All right. Love you, son. We'll talk soon. Bye. And so that's another program, An Uncommon Sense. I want to thank you again for your patience in listening to this program. Sometimes it seems that we're rambling a little bit. Yes, we're not that structured right now. But like Lawrence said, once I finish this obligation that I have promised someone, I gave my word and I will finish it. And then we might just do the 1 hour long programs where we have a little bit more of a structure, and then maybe after we'll have a free-for-all discussion with everybody. We've yet to figure out the format. But for now, I want to thank you for listening to this program. It's called Uncommon Sense, the Father and Son Theater, and where you were with Lawrence Buckley and my son Luke and myself and Ashok Thakur from California on a friend's ranch taking time out, teaching meditation. Like I said before, sometimes you have to, with all the pain and pleasure and the gains and the losses that come into your life, that you have to allow them to blow through the leaves of your life, your consciousness, you being, of course, the tree. And it helps you remember this when you think about it, because this is a little instruction book for life. It helps you to remember that it's hard to forget the pain. It's hard to forget that you are in a place that it's not where you want to be. But it's hard to remember this rule as well when you're feeling blame and you're feeling loss or sorrow of any kind. But that's when you need this wisdom the most, to rest happily like a great tree in the middle of all the winds of change. And like everyone, I'd rather not experience the undercurrents of life, but the challenge is not to shun them, but to expect them and to accept them over a lifetime, that we have our share of them when they come in our lives and leave. Because these are the greatest lessons. These are the things that causes us to grow. These are the things that make us who we are. These are the things that challenge our being. And these are the things that decide if we are made of greatness or mediocrity. Avoiding the difficult aspects of living only stunts our fulfillment, our fullness. When we do this, we are like a tree that never fully opens to the sky. And dwelling on all our difficulties and our pain and our suffering only prevents them from going on their way. So when we do this, we are like a great tree, literally sits in the forest. It nets the storm in its leaves, and then it ushers it through all of its leaves, losing nothing, bending along the way, twisting along the way, but never breaking. The storm, by its very nature, wants to move on. And the tree's grace is that the tree has no hands. Our blessing and our curse is to learn and relearn when to reach and to hold, and when to put our hands in our pockets and just allow ourselves to be, and allow the situation to play through, and allow everything, good or bad, to flow through our consciousness and our life as it should. This is Dr. Mel Gill. You've been listening to Uncommon Sense. Thank you. We will talk to you next week, 9:30 p.m. Singapore time, 9:30 a.m. New York time, and 4:30 p.m. Bulgarian time. Good night, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Well,